In the silence after exile, some girls break, others, like Ladi, burn. Welcome back to Northern Tales, where broken girls don't vanish, they rise. This is part 3 of Ladi's story. The bruises have healed, the whispers have faded, but Tanko has returned, and he still thinks he can win. What follows isn't a fight, it's a reckoning. If you've ever been told to bow, to shrink, to be silent, this one is for you. Every girl deserves to be seen. Every voice deserves to be heard. But silence is not surrender, and calm is not always peace. Tanko hadn't returned since the incident. Not a knock, not a message, not even a whisper carried through the compound walls. And for a while, life returned to normal. Too normal. Ladi went back to school. She sat beside Miss Tochi in the afternoons. She read. She studied. She even laughed again. A small cautious laugh, like a door she wasn't ready to fully open. But deep in her chest, something itched. This is the calm before the storm, she thought. 3 weeks later, the storm came. It was a dusky evening, sky painted in streaks of orange and smoke. Indo had sent her to the market to buy onions and dry pepper. As she crossed the village square, she heard it. His voice, unmistakable, loud, cocky, Tanko. He was surrounded by his usual circle of followers, boys and men who hung onto his words like granite shells to sweat. Ladi, he bellowed. Ladi! She heard him. She definitely heard him. But she didn't stop. She tightened her grip on the basket and walked faster, eyes straight ahead. Behind her, the boys laughed. Look at you, one sneered. Always telling us you tamed the beast. Now see your beast walking away. Another added, Is this the woman you were bragging about? She didn't even look at you. The laughter swelled. But Ladi kept walking, head high, pace steady. Then, without warning, a rough hand yanked at her hijab. The fabric pulled tight around her neck, jerking her backwards so hard she almost lost her footing. She gasped, clutching her basket, struggling. She gasped, clutching her basket, struggling to stay upright. Tanko's voice roared behind her. Didn't you hear me call you? Ladi spun around, heart pounding, eyes blazing. And in that moment, in front of everyone, she said it loud enough for the sky to remember. Tanko, why don't you go look for a woman you can tame? Because Ladi is beyond your reach. The air fell silent. The boys stopped laughing. Even the wind seemed to pause. Tanko blinked, stunned. The ego, the showmanship, all of it cracked in that split second. And then, like the coward he truly was, he slapped her. Hard. The kind of slap that carries shame. The kind that's meant to crush, not just correct. Ladi stumbled. Her basket fell. She hit the ground, arms scraping against stone, cheek already burning, eyes wide with shock. But this time, she didn't cry. This time, the fire didn't flicker, it rose. For a moment, everything blurred. The slap, the ground, the shame. But then, something inside Ladi snapped. Not like a twig, like a dam. She rose slowly, eyes wide, breath sharp. Her hijab was slipping from her head. She yanked it off and tied it firmly around her waist, not to cover, but to fight. Before Tanko could even wipe the grin off his face, a stone, jagged and furious, cracked against the side of his temple. He gasped. Blood bloomed instantly, dark and thick, painting his cheek like war paint, and then he fell. Hard, dust coiling around him like smoke, but Ladi wasn't done. She pounced, scratched, hit, bite. Years of insult, dismissal, and humiliation poured out in fists. Tanko groaned, trying to shield his face, trying to push her off, but he couldn't. He, the village champion, was being battered by a girl he once tried to tame. By the time he gathered the strength to fight back, it was too late. 3 elders had rushed into the square, dragging Ladi off like a wild animal, arms flailing, mouth foaming with rage. Even his boys stood frozen, the swagger gone from their eyes. Nobody had ever seen Tanko bleed. Nobody had ever seen Ladi like this. She screamed as they held her. She twisted, kicked, tried to lunge again. One of the elders sent a barefoot boy sprinting through the village. Go! Call her father, now! Tanko sat up, his face pale, hands sticky with blood. He tried to stand, wobbled, then collapsed again, flat on his back. Was it the shock, the wound, or the horror of being publicly beaten by the girl he bet on? The crowd grew. Whispers turned into murmurs, murmurs into worry. But Ladi was still fighting. She wasn't in the square anymore. She was in every moment they tried to break her. Every insult, every slap, every silence that felt like erasure. Then Baral arrived. And what he saw nearly brought him to his knees. His daughter, blood on her sleeves. Tanko, wounded and humiliated. The whole village watching. His voice cracked as he shouted her name. He rushed to her, grabbed her right wrist with one hand, and with the other, he slapped her across the face. Once, twice, 3 times. His eyes were wild. You've disgraced me. He picked up a stick, dry, long, merciless, and began to chase her down the path. Go home! Go before I kill you myself. Ladi ran. Dust rising behind her. The villagers silent. Tanko still bleeding, and the sky slowly darkening, like even it could no longer watch. By morning, the story had traveled faster than Hamatan wind. Everyone had heard. Everyone had added their version. Some said Ladi leapt like a lioness. Some swore the stone left a dent in Tanko's skull. Others, quietly and with wonder, called her the girl who brought down a warrior. At the village square, men gathered like they always did, sipping kunu, spitting granite shells. But this time, it was not to hear Tanko's story. It was to tell them. When Tanko finally showed his face again, trying to act unfazed, he was greeted with nods and smirk. Even his old rival, Malambako, a man he once boasted about defeating in 2 breaths, clapped him on the back and said, Sarki Tanko, I think it's time you hand that title over. Ladi wears it better. He chuckled, but Tanko didn't laugh. He forced a grin. His jaw was tight. He forced a grin, but his jaw was tight. His pride aching. When asked what really happened, he scoffed. She caught me off guard, he would say. She threw a stone. That's not strength, that's trickery. But the boys weren't buying it. One evening, one of his closest cronies leaned in and said, Sarki Tanko, or should we start calling you Hajia Tanko? A girl defeated you, accept it. Tanko clenched his fist. Stop saying she blindsided you, another teased. In wrestling, that's called tactics. Just say it. You met your match. A beast you couldn't tame. The laughter rang too loud that night, and something in Tanko crumbled. The streets no longer feared him. The boys no longer bowed to him. Even the girls whispered his name without shaking. So one morning before dawn, without fanfare, Tanko packed his small bag, mounted a motorbike, and rode out of the village towards Agadez, a dusty border town in Niger Republic. He said he just needed a change of air, but everyone knew he was running from Ladi's name, from the blood on the sand, from the roar of a girl he thought he could silence. And the village? The village stayed quiet. Because when a man like Tanko runs, you don't stop him. You just let the dust settle. Since the fight, Barao hadn't said a word to Ladi or to Indo. 8 days of silence. 8 days of avoidance. 8 days of tension so thick it hung in the air like smoke. And then, on the 8th day, he called them both. They stood in the middle of the compound, Indo's hands trembling slightly, Ladi's chin held high. Barao didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His words cut like polished steel. You, he said, turning to Indo, have raised a daughter that has disgraced me in this village. A girl who has humiliated a man, scattered my name in the dust, and now walks around as if she's proud of it. Indo's lips parted. No sound came. I can't hide my shame anymore, he continued. I've carried it long enough. Then came the words that froze the air. I divorce you. He didn't look at Ladi when he said it. You and your daughter, pack your things. You are no longer welcome in my house. Silence. Even the goats stopped chewing. And in that silence, something shattered. Not Indo, not even Ladi, but the illusion that obedience would ever earn them safety. You've been listening to Northern Tales, where the voices of fierce girls and forgotten women rise. This was the end of part 3 of Ladi's story. Thrown out, unwanted, unbowed. So what happens to a girl once she's exiled for speaking too loudly, for fighting too boldly, for refusing to kneel? That is a story for the next chapter. If Ladi's voice moved you, subscribe to the channel and walk with her into the fire. Every girl deserves to be seen. Every voice deserves to be heard. We'll see you in part 4.